Fantastic. Well, welcome and lovely. It's a very intimate crowd we've got here, and great to meet you. I hope you're having a good day so far. I'm Jamie Clyde. I'm from Bruntwood SciTech, and for the next half hour, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing, not only here but more broadly across the UK in terms of ecosystem development, and give you a sort of sneak preview of our plans to redevelop Met Tower in the centre of the city. So I'm told as I get going that more people are going to come and join. So hopefully, as people see that there's something happening, I know we're competing against quite an interesting talk next door. So hopefully you find this really informative as well. So thank you for joining me. So I'm just going to hit the play button. Not with that. We got. Fantastic, thank you. So a little bit of background about Bruntwood SciTech. It's fair if you haven't come across us before, because we've just literally arrived in Scotland in the last few months. We're the UK's leading property company focusing specifically on science and tech. We're actually active now in 7 cities across the UK, and you'll see by the map that with a concentration in the north of England and reaching down as far as Cambridge. And in those cities, we've got 11 different campuses, all focused on, as I say, the science and tech sectors. And across those, about 520 different customers sitting in those campuses, all science and tech related. Juggling with, I don't know why it keeps, sorry, what's causing it to go back? Is it, there we are. Thank you. So just looking at those campuses and the distribution of those 11 campuses, each campus is specialist in a unique blend of science and tech based on the heritage, the academic environment, and the particular economy in the different cities. So if we take Alderley Park, for example, just south of Manchester, now the UK's largest life sciences dedicated campus. We're building a tech cluster within it, but historically very life sciences focused. At the other end of the spectrum, we've got Innovation Birmingham on the Aston campus in the Knowledge Quarter in Birmingham, and in Leeds, just above the station, with Platform, both digital campuses, so exclusively digital, but with a broad range of technologies within the digital sector. So underpinning that is a really quite an unusual and a unique business model that we operate. And this title of this talk is that we're more than bricks and mortar. So at the base of our proposition is property expertise. We do property, but I think what's unusual about us, a lot of property providers specialize in a particular area. They either develop or they're asset managers. We really run the whole of the life cycle. So we develop properties, we manage the construction, we manage asset management, commercial, property management, facilities management. We even have an energy business, so we're an energy supplier, and we own a stake in a wind farm actually in Dumfriesshire. So we supply sustainable energy to our campuses. And with that knowledge of the full spectrum, the full life cycle, if you like, of the property industry, we're able, when we develop, to take that learning, the operational expertise, and feed that back into the design of new properties and new developments. And I think that allows us to innovate in a way that if you're just focusing on one particular area of the value chain, it's a lot harder to do because you're relying on third parties to give you that expertise. So sitting above that property expertise, we try to service the full spectrum of customers, from startups, early stage, high growth businesses and enterprises, and provide space and flexible space for all those different types of businesses. So if you want a meeting room for an hour, or you want an office on flexible terms, through to a long-term commitment with your own bespoke lab or office facility, we can provide all of that. We also try and accommodate business needs as businesses ebb and flow and sometimes have to downsize. and then upsize, again, through the flexibility of arrangements that we can accommodate that. And what underpins that is having a strong community. So if you're having to release space, there's somebody who can step into that space. And we do that through innovation services. So in each of our centers, we have teams of people whose focus is to help businesses start, grow, and also with larger businesses to help them innovate. And that's the piece of the organization that I look after. And then through all of this is a specialism, as I said at the beginning, in tech and life sciences. And that flows through in terms of the way that we engage with customers and we understand how what the customers' needs are, the way we fit out buildings, the way we operate buildings, because obviously the needs for tech businesses and life sciences businesses is very different to other types of commercial property. But underpinning the whole organization is purpose. And it's been a message, I think, in some of the talks this morning on the importance of purpose, not only to attract talent, but also more broadly in the future to attract investment. And for us, our purpose is creating thriving cities. So we see things very much in the long term. We're making investments in cities that don't last months or years. We're thinking in terms of decades. And to do that, that requires building long-term strategic relationships, both public and private, and forming joint ventures in many cases with the likes of the local city councils, with the NHS, with the universities, and equity joint ventures too. So really want to talk about how we grow ecosystems and work with the different ecosystems in different parts of the country. At the heart of each of our campuses is obviously a group of customers requiring labs and office space. But we also want to encourage innovators who don't necessarily need space also to be part of our community as well, because they activate existing customers and will be creating the businesses of the future. So a big focus for us is creating that community within our campuses. But as far as the broader ecosystem is concerned, our role is to connect our customers and support them through access to markets, to talent, capital, equipment that they need to develop product, services, whether that's professional services or support services, access to government in terms of grants, our shareholders, industry groups and industry forums and connection to the wider industry. And finally, to the local community, increasingly important because our campuses are intending to be porous, where we bring in the local community, whether it's charities, arts organizations, STEM and young people. Because through activating with the local communities, we not only help those local communities, but at the same time we actually make our campuses more vibrant. And it's about creating relationships with each of these organizations in the ecosystem. It's a complex picture, but ecosystems by their nature are complex. And with each of these, it's having multiple partnerships, long-term partnerships, which are mutually beneficial, so that each of the stakeholders are gaining and obviously supporting the needs of customers. And we do that through a whole range of different partnerships, and we've got over 150 partnerships across our network, and they range from the local universities in each of our cities, and as I say, some of those relationships are at equity level, and likewise with local government and with central government. Also with the NHS, but both at trust level and the likes of NHS Digital and the academic health and science networks around the country as well. Industry associations and charities like Cancer Research UK, CRUK is one of our anchors at Alderley Park, for example, and the tech organizations that are driving the tech ecosystem in each of the cities. So in Birmingham Tech and in Manchester Digital both have their bases on our campuses. We work with corporates and have corporate relationships and bring them access to early stage businesses and entrepreneurs, and of course the investment community at all levels, at angel level and at VC and private equity level as well. So it's cultivating all of those partnerships and relationships across the country. But the first step of the various services that we operate are really around curation. And so defining who we want, what sort of mix of businesses do we want on each of our campuses. And by that, it's what type of sectors and making sure that those sectors reflect the critical sectors for that particular city. The size of businesses, so not having too many startups, allowing enough space and capacity for those startups to grow, so we have a mix of high growth and startup businesses, as well as enterprises as well, because increasingly enterprises need access and want access to entrepreneurs and early stage businesses. And at the same time, a huge growth path, of course, for the early stage businesses is access to the corporates. So by corporates, we're particularly interested in enterprises that actually want to play an active role on the campus. They're not just looking for space, they're looking to be an active member. So it's the areas of those corporates that are involved in innovation and interested in innovation. So having defined that sort of target mix and what do we want on each of our campuses, we then engage with the wider ecosystem and build relationships like we are today in the various ecosystems. And we have to qualify when somebody comes forward and wants to join each of our campuses. We have to obviously check that the people that we're bringing on board are not just people wanting to come and pay rent. They're people that actually are going to add value to and be the right mix ultimately on campus. The sort of base level service that we provide in terms of support to businesses is around business support, and that's a bit like a GP service, but for businesses. So if you go to your GP, you get a conversation with a referral to the appropriate hospital or consultant or somebody based on your needs. And in the same way, we sit down with each of our customers and with dedicated teams, and we help them navigate into universities, for example, using the relationships we have with universities. And that could be access to a KTP or to resources or placements, for example. And many small businesses struggle with navigating their way through the faculties. So, universities are large, complex organizations. So, for example, at Aston, there is an amazing 3D printing unit, which is about 100 meters from our campus, and we can facilitate access to that. And if you don't like that, then there's another one 300 meters away at BCU, the other university on the Knowledge Quarter. So it's having their access to university facilities and equally clinical facilities as well through the NHS. In Manchester, in the City Labs, we're co-located with the main hospital in Manchester, and we have direct access through the NHS Trust to data, samples, and clinicians. And the same applies, obviously, with new markets. Funding and finance, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but we guide organizations through the process of grants and raising finance. If they're looking for help with professional services, again, we have panels of professional services, lawyers, IP specialists, and so on. With talent, the role that we play is helping organizations that are growing fast and don't necessarily have the bandwidth to navigate the complex landscape to access talent. So we have relationships with not only universities, but alternative universities, the colleges, skills training organizations, recruiters, and so on. And we help connect the growing businesses with those sources of talent. And finally, in product development, whether it's actually looking for equipment to help develop the product themselves, we have open access labs, for example, that are fully equipped with reagents and equipment to help effectively doing research by the hour, through to partners, research organizations, and specialist consultants that can help with the commercialization process. So these are a range of sort of, if you like, those GP services that are available. Then we run a whole set of programs, and a key issue here is that each ecosystem has its own partners developing and delivering great programs, and we'll put businesses and introduce them to those programs. For example, the Goldman Sachs program or Ernst & Young run very good programs. But where we see there are gaps in the ecosystem, then we'll come in and run our own. Sometimes we'll partner with organizations like the Connected Places Catapult, who are running a program with them with HS2, an accelerator in the HS2 project. And they can be startup boot camps, early stage accelerators. And we do a lot of work with corporate innovation where we work with corporates to set challenges. And by corporates, I mean large enterprises. It could be city councils. We have a program with Birmingham City Council, for example, or with the likes of HS2 and the NHS. They set challenges. We then find entrepreneurs with products and early stage businesses that could potentially pivot and address those challenges that aren't being met by the market. So just to, oh, that's interesting. This is where I have to dive over here.
Energym create clean energy from human power. We have patented systems which can generate electricity, clean energy from people's workouts. We are the only company which allows us to retrofit our technology.
Brilliant. I'll just introduce it in a second, yeah. So this is a very short video from one of our customers who's been on one of the programs, just to give you an insight of how it's been for them. The company's called Energym, and they make, they retrofit gym equipment to create electricity from the effort that you make when you go for a workout.
Energym create clean energy from human power. We have patented systems which can generate electricity, clean energy from people's workouts. We are the only company which allows us to retrofit our technology into existing gym equipment. What we're doing is very efficiently tapping off energy from gym equipment in a way in which empowers people to get fit, as well as the gym can reduce its energy bills as well as its carbon footprint. So the support that we're getting from Innovation Birmingham has been fantastic, and it's full of excitement, full of diversity, other businesses doing very exciting technical things. There's loads of lively events going on, there's loads of access to finance, loads of business support we have tapped into, as well as the access to the universities around the local area. So we've probably in about just over a year, we've built an entire business which is now ready for launch. 100% sure I wouldn't be able to say that without the support of Innovation Birmingham.
Okay. What was quite interesting about that particular business and the program, the program was sponsored by Gymshark, and as a result of being on the program, Energym actually attracted the interest of one of the shareholders of Gymshark, and they actually joined the board of Energym, and that obviously created a huge step change to that business. So to enable those programs and the business support that I just talked about, we have to cultivate networks with the finance community and also the skills community. So on the investor side, we work with at all levels of investment. So in Manchester, for example, we recently curated various informal groups of angel networks to create a platform called Manchester Angels, taking learning from Cambridge and Cambridge Angels. So there is effectively now a formalized platform to help angels access the market. At the VC and the fund level, we've been involved in setting up a number of funds. We ourselves are a property business, and we don't confuse funding and property, but we do play a role in facilitating the setting up of funds like the Northern Gritstone Fund, which pulled together Leeds, Sheffield, and Manchester universities, and we have been an LP into that fund. And we run investor showcases that bring together the investment community in front of our customers. And we're partners of Venture Fest, for example, that organize those events. On the skills side, we have partners around the country that work with schools to engage at STEM. So either at the 7 to 14 years level, where we're actually trying to get the idea of moving into tech and having a career in tech as an idea at that stage, and getting kids to think about science and tech as they move into the secondary education. And then as they leave school or start to leave school, we work with other partners. One, for example, Digital Innovators that we're working with in Birmingham at the moment, where we're taking 16 to 18-year-olds who are about to drop out of school. We take them out of the education environment, we bring them onto the campus and give them access to challenges from corporates like NHS, BNP Paribas, and so on. What's been interesting on that particular program is that our aim was to engage these young people so that they went back into the education environment with new skills and new energies to complete their studies, in the hope that they could then follow an apprenticeship career or even go on to university. What we found as a result, that the ideas they come out with are so good that the corporate partners are actually wanting to sponsor the projects. So all three of those partners I just described are wanting to take forward the ideas and the projects that they've come up with. So it's a new program, started at the beginning of the year, really exciting. We're trying to work out now how we can scale it, because we can see enormous opportunity for that. We also work with the skills development organizations, whether it's the universities or the training businesses, because having seen this aggregated view across our customers, we can see where the skills gaps are, and we can work with those organizations so that they can develop their pipeline, if you like, in terms of the curricula and the types of courses that they're running. And just finally, in terms of strategic collaborations, so where we see that there are gaps within sectors that are not being met through natural evolution and founders, we pull together industry groups, innovators, corporations, and government bodies to run very specific collaborative programs. An example of that was the Oncology Development Program we ran last year at Audley, where we pulled together Innovate UK, Cancer Research UK, 4 big pharma businesses, and the local Christie Hospital. We took 80 applications, whittled it down to 6, really to address a specific area of oncology, which we saw was a gap in the market. And as a result of that, we took those 6 businesses through an intensive 6-month mentoring program with that panel of organizations. And as a result, those 6 businesses, we hope, will have secured around 50 million in funding between them, and accelerated the progress of those businesses substantially just through that program. So the final piece that I just want to touch on is around vibrancy, because obviously there's a lot of work in terms of business support, programs, working around the ecosystem, but it effectively comes together with a party. And so we have a calendar of events that run in all of our campuses with 3 objectives. One is to provide an employee benefit, so for small businesses that can't necessarily compete with large tech organizations that offer all sorts of incentives and employee benefits, we can provide that on their behalf. So whether that's book clubs, barbecues, yoga classes, and all sorts of events. The second thing is, by running all these programs, we're trying to bring the different businesses together socially to drive collaboration and vibrancy across the campus. And the third point, just picking up on something I mentioned earlier, is involving local communities and making sure that our campuses aren't these bastions, they are actually part and integrated in the local community. So bringing in arts organizations, charities, young people, interesting people onto our events. And some of these, I say, are quite simple, small events like book clubs. Other ones can be major marquee events. So we had, for example, last year, one of the stages of the Tour of Britain started at one of our campuses. So we had Sky TV and all the local community in as well. So just to wrap up on innovation services, just to give you an idea, last year we supported over 400 customers. 2/3 of them said when we asked them, they could actually pinpoint particular things within their business that they've seen have had a major impact on their business as a result of the support that they've received. And in total, about over 160 million of revenue, investment raised, and a whole pile of grants that we've supported them on. So that's what we do around the country. And now we're landing in Glasgow, which is really exciting. So I just want to briefly mention, in the remaining time, what we're doing here. The announcement a few months ago was we acquired Met Tower in the middle of the city, and our intention is to create a tech hub to bring together the tech community in Glasgow. So in May, we acquired the building. I'm sure you know it well. It is an icon on the landscape. We've already started works now, and the intention then is to complete and launch the first phase at the end of 24. So it's quite a major refurbishment program, and there'll be a second phase launching at the end of 2026. If you know your square feet, it's 113,000 square feet. If you don't, what does that really mean? Well, it's 14 floors and 8,000 square feet per floor, which is about 80 people on a floor, in very simple terms, to give you an idea of scale. And I'm just amazed at the number of people I've spoken to who know the building well and actually studied there when it was the College of Printing. So we're giving it a whole new lease of life, and the refurb is really around specifically tech and digital businesses. So it will be a tech hub with a focus, obviously, to achieve net zero in operation. And as well as, obviously, space, we'll be providing that suite of services I've just talked about in terms of the innovation support. So in terms of amenities in the building, we'll obviously have the ultra-fast connectivity, needless to say. A load of shared breakout spaces. So the idea being that you take the space that a business needs, but all the meeting rooms and breakout areas are shared. That obviously promotes community. It means that companies don't have to take more space than they actually need for the core team. There's showers and lockers, sports kit, places to store bikes, all sort of pretty standard these days. At the top of the building will be a rooftop lounge and conferencing space. And the idea being that that is a tech lounge for the tech ecosystem. So not specifically just for customers in the building. We want it to be a place that brings together the ecosystem and for meetup groups around the city. There'll be yoga and wellness and meeting rooms, a cafe on the ground floor, and you can get in at 2 in the morning if you want to. In terms, I've done this again. Don't know why. How do I do this? Yeah. So location-wise, I'm pretty sure most of you know where the building is. It's in the heart of the city centre, part of the innovation districts, and literally 50 meters from Queen Street Station. And we're just a couple of blocks away, actually, from Strathclyde Uni and the innovation centres there, and the Get Living development that's just going in. That's number 7 there, just south of High Street Station. Phase 2, I mentioned, comes 2 years later, which will be another tower that we're going to build at the back of the existing tower, and that will provide another 120,000 square feet of digital tech space with all the same facilities and access to the main tower. So just to wrap up, that's what it'll look like if we cut a knife down it. Starting at the bottom of the building, all the amenities and drop-in space, serviced offices for small businesses. As you go higher up the building, more conventional offices, and then the co-working and conference space, that tech lounge and roof terrace up in the top. And then the second building coming up 2 years later. So we're really excited and really looking forward to launching this. But over the next sort of 2 years, we want to reach out, build those partnerships, and so that we can play an active role in helping to shape and develop the ecosystem here in Glasgow. Thank you very much.